We are 24 hours out from the first Republican debate of the 2024 cycle. If you're not excited, you're in the wrong place. I am so fired up. This is like Christmas in politics for me. But here's the best part. The stage is set. We now know who the 8 candidates are. They're going to take the stage tomorrow night. This is going to be big. We're going to break down who made it and who didn't, because I think that's equally as important. Who's not going to be on the stage? I think you know who I'm talking about. Also, the DeSantis campaign super PAC put out this memo that all of the Sunday show pundits went nuts about. I have a take on this that you're not going to hear anywhere else because I just don't think these guys get it. And that's frankly why we do this show, because I'm going to give you an insight that you won't hear anywhere else. I think this is a huge head fake, and I'm going to break this all down from you. Then the other thing is, we're all going to be talking about if Donald Trump's not on the stage, who are we going to be watching? Who are people think are going to be the standout folks? Also, a real big thing I know for so many voters is voter integrity. They don't feel like their vote counts. They don't know why they should vote. We saw the consequences of this in Georgia last cycle, which resulted in us not taking the Senate. It had major consequences. Well, we're here in Milwaukee, in the state of Wisconsin. 10 electoral votes are at stake. And my gosh, both 2015 cycle when Donald Trump won it and then the 2020 cycle when it went for Joe Biden. We're both on a razor's edge. What is it going to take to put Wisconsin back in the Republican column? We're going to break it all down. This debate is setting the stage for where we go forward. Who makes it, who doesn't. The Iowa caucuses are January 15th. We're months away, but this is really the first cutoff. So this morning, the RNC announced who made the cut, who didn't. Remember, 3 criteria, right? The polling criteria, the donor criteria, and the pledge. We'll get to all that. But the bigger news is who made it officially. A lot of people are saying they made it. 8 candidates officially will be on the stage. Governor Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, Mike Pence, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Chris Christie, Doug Burgum, the North Dakota governor, right? And then Asa Hutchinson, man, he barely got in there, but he did. Who's out? Probably equally as important. Perry Johnson, he thought he made it. No such luck. Francis Suarez, the mayor of Miami, didn't make it. And talk show host Larry Elder didn't make the cut. By the way, as I said, all these guys thought they made it. They were all saying they would. It'll be interesting what they say now, because one of them in particular, Francis Suarez, the mayor of Miami, we talked to him, as you may recall, out at the Iowa Fair. He had said, if you don't make the debate stage, you should drop out. So the big question I have now is, does he drop out? We'll see. This is going to be a really interesting debate, though. As you know, I managed those debates in 2015. We had 2 stages in 2015 in Cleveland, the big one, and then we had some people called the kids table. This time it's just 8 on stage. It's a 2-hour debate. You take out commercial breaks. It's going to be interesting to see how much time each one has to really make the case and what their strategy is. I think you're going to have half of the folks that think it's a good idea to go after Trump and a few of them who think it's a good idea to promote themselves. Here's my take on this, by the way. If you're at 1, 2, 4%, going after Donald Trump, I don't know what that gets you. I think you're better off actually talking about yourself and trying to get yourself from, say, 2 to 4 to maybe 6 or 8%. Let's face it, that's where the real movement is going to be, trying to edge somebody else out. By the way, so the debate Wednesday night here in Milwaukee. Thursday, though, when we're all going to be talking about it, and we've got some amazing guests lined up to kind of break down who did well, who didn't, how did Fox do, how did the moderators do, what did the RNCs take, did they do a good job? We got a lot to break down on all this. After the debate. But here's the funny thing. Trump, like he always does, I mean, what a master of marketing Trump is. He just announced last night on Truth Social that he's going to Atlanta Thursday. Well, this isn't like a field trip. He's not going to Atlanta to go shopping or anything. This is because that Fulton County DA requires him to turn himself in to face that indictment before Friday. So what does he do? He counter programs Thursday. So first he's going to counter program on tomorrow night. He's going to be doing this interview from what we hear with Tucker Carlson. Interestingly, Tucker hasn't said anything. Trump hasn't said anything. But all the speculation, none of which has been denied, is that he's going to counter program with Tucker on Twitter with this pre-arranged interview. So it's already been shot. They know what they're going to say, and they're going to put it on Twitter so that it counter programs. And I got to imagine the numbers are going to be interesting to see who does better. Now, you're going to hear the mainstream media, by the way, tell you that you can't compare apples to apples on this thing. Twitter's very different. By the way, here's how they're going to measure by Nielsen ratings. What did Nielsen ratings say? One viewer equals 25,000. This isn't exactly the most scientific way of looking at this. But then they're going to say, well, if you watched it on Twitter, that doesn't equivocate to what you saw on television. I don't care. I think the point is that Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson are competing with this, and there's no question you can't do both at the same time. Maybe some people watch it after, I get it, or they DVR the debate and watch that after. But you can't kind of watch both at the same time and really pay attention. I get it. You could have your Twitter screen up watching the thing, but you can't listen to both. I actually will be very intrigued to see how one does versus the other. This is going to be really interesting. I don't know about you. I mean, I'll do both. I'm going to have that on there. You can obviously go back and watch the Trump thing happen over again. I'm sure it'll get captured on Twitter. Same thing with the debate, but I'll be live in the spin room. We're going to talk about that later. We'll talk about that on the show afterwards. Who was in the spin room, who wasn't, who won, all that kind of stuff. One of the things that I have found interesting, though, is when the RNC announced, I mentioned those 3 criteria. Where's the loyalty pledge, right? We know Nikki Haley signed it. We saw a couple others, but there were a couple other. Asa Hutchinson in particular said he wouldn't sign it. Did he? No word from the RNC so far. No one in the media is really asking either. I don't know. I don't get this. Why? Did they just not do it? Well, we're going to find out. We'll know more as time goes on, but I find it interesting, the media coverage tonight. All right. I want to get back to this DeSantis memo, though. The Super put out this memo, right? So they can't coordinate with DeSantis. And in the past, here's how this worked. So Super PACs legally cannot coordinate with federal campaigns. Why? Because they can take as much money as they want. A donor could write a $10 million check, a $100 million check. Campaigns are restricted federally by how much money they can take. $6,600, $3,300 for the primary, $3,300 for the general election. So if you're on the Super PAC side, you can't coordinate with them. You can't tell them what ads you're going to run or the strategy or all that kind of stuff. So the workaround in the last couple cycles has been, well, we'll just sort of let our strategy be known publicly. So let me give you an example. You might set up a public Twitter account and put out memos on that. But before you actually launched your campaign, you told them where to look so that the campaign would actually see what you're doing. It would all be public. It stays completely in line with the law. But you get it? So you're not technically coordinating, but you're telling them what you're doing, right? So you've told them, here's where you can look to see what we're doing. And you just hope that no one else knows about that site. Eventually, usually what happens is it gets exposed during the campaign. But what happened was DeSantis's Super PAC, which is run by a guy named Jeff Rowe, who owns a political consulting firm called Axiom Strategies. Jeff's been in the game for cycles. He's a pro. He released the memo stating 4 key criteria on his own website. And the pundits went nuts. Oh, how stupid is this? I can't believe. And it said things like defend Trump, talk about personal stories. And everybody said, why would he do this? Here's my take. It's a head fake.